Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of Courtside Fracas. I'm here with some friends and a guy who likes to be an enemy from time to time, but hey, he's around. Kay, how you doing, mate?
I'm good, bro. I'm good. How you keeping?
Yeah, I'm not too bad. Thank you very much. You know, life's all right at the moment. It was a bit shaky last week, but
get
yeah,
over it. Come on, move on.
All right.
That will be televised, and so here we are now, 3-1 up, baby.
What can we say? What can we say? Obi, how you doing, mate?
I'm good, man. It's been a minute. I haven't been on in ages.
Yeah, I know. I would say we've missed you, but yeah, man.
Oh, wow.
No, I'm messing. It's always a pleasure to have you on. And thank you for joining me. For those of you guys listening, it is quite late at night. So I do appreciate these guys for coming on. But we had to do a little pre-celebration for the celebration on the weekend. You know what I mean? So you guys listen to this on your morning commute. Maybe that's just going up and down your stairs if you're working from home. But for those of you going to listen to a lot of shameless Lakers joy. So if you're like Yaz, you're gonna hate it, but it's gonna be good content, okay, guys? So here we go. So yesterday night, something great happened. The Lakers went one game away from securing their 17th NBA championship.
The smile on your face, it made me think that you've won already.
Oh, I mean, some people say we have, you know.
Because you know what stranger things have happened, but we are in a lovely position to now call ourselves champions. But not yet. I'll wait till Friday evening.
Okay, I can't lie to you. Stranger things haven't happened. Stranger things haven't happened.
And the guy who did it's on our team. So what can you
Exactly.
What shit?
Yeah, it was an interesting performance. But since you guys last spoke to us, we have had game 3 in which the Lakers did lose. Miami played very well, in particular Jimmy Butler. So, Kay, I know you caught the game. What were your main takeaways from game 3 as we briefly go over that?
They really got AD out the paint. Literally, they got him out the paint. So with AD, obviously we've known, as Bron has known to have done in the past, we did the Cavs. He wants to get the big man going early, which at the time was K-Love, but this time it's AD. Couldn't get him going early, and Boston did a fantastic job of fronting him and keeping him away from the paint and making the catches not as easy, which we also saw in game 4 as well. But so, boom, straight away, 2 fouls. So automatically he's in foul trouble. And then, I think he only took 9 shots game 3. And then later on in the game, a quick extra 2 fouls. So immediately he had 4 fouls and didn't even have 10 points. Bearing in mind, he only took 9 shots. But even he said later, me being in foul trouble so early in the third or whatever, meant I couldn't be as aggressive as I wanted to. And so he couldn't do exactly what he needed. And basically, all good things come off what AD is doing more or less as the series has shown until maybe game 4. So if AD's hitting his shots, AD's getting the rebounds and the kickouts, and they're working their pick and roll, and he's getting his either short baseline jump or he's working in the post, then things are going well. However, if we don't have that, all of a sudden, Ron is trying to facilitate or trying to get the ball out to the guys on the wings, and more often than not, these guys are not driving into the lane. They're not finishing around the rim, which is probably why free throw numbers are a lot lower if you're not named AD or LeBron, because they can't really drive. It's really just a kick and shoot. And if they're not hitting, then normally you'd go, okay, cool, let's give the balls to AD. But then he's not hitting because obviously it's not going well his way. And so automatically Bron's stuck in this space where, okay, cool, I need to go crazy. But as we can see, let the other man beat me. They're clearly beating us because we're not hitting shots. Or in the worst case, we actually were hitting shots. So the role players did actually step up. But unfortunately, I think it just wasn't meant to be because, like I said, AD, the X factor happened to be the X factor as to why we probably didn't win that game, because they really just unsettled him the whole time. So our whole rhythm was off, even with Morris and all these men stepping up in the paint and so forth. Just didn't happen for us, man.
And you know, it's interesting that you mentioned that, because much has been said of this small Miami Heat team in that, in that with AD, with JaVale, with Bron, with Dwight, we're just going to overpower them in the paint. They're not going to really have any chance. So with AD in foul trouble, what stopped the likes of a Dwight Howard from dominating in the paint? Why couldn't he overcome the small Heat or overcome the 22-point shooting Kelly Olynyk? What happened?
Because this is not Dwight of 2008, well and truly. So he's not going to dominate in the paint, make his own shot. And the game has very much changed from that. And Dwight, on the offensive end, if he's not getting putbacks or pick and rolls, he's not going to be the best passer out the paint. So I think with that, it wasn't really tailored to him anyway, because it just doesn't look like he's got the thing that's going to make Lakers tick from that. If we want to try an inside-out game, it's really just not going to work, because you see how Bam kind of works for the Heat. Like, obviously, he's leading them and everything leading into this. He's averaging 5 assists for them. Like, to get the ball, Dwight's job is normally kick the ball out to the person I'm going to screen for and then roll. His role is very one-dimensional. And it's been that all year, so I don't think it's going to come to a point in the finals where he's going to step up and be like, all right, cool, give me the ball in the paint, I'm going to make this happen, because his role until then has been more or less non-existent, just jump offs and putbacks.
Yeah, I definitely have to concur with that. I think we have to go on to someone. We have to touch on him. He dropped a 40-point triple-double. The only people to have done that before is the fable-like Wilt Chamberlain with his numbers, and our very own LeBron James. However, in those two previous 40-point triple-doubles in the playoffs, they resulted in losses. Jimmy Butler's one is the first that's actually resulted in a win. So we have to touch on him in some respect. And I think we spoke about it in our group chat as well, somewhat maybe the most impressive stat of as of where NBA has gone these days is that not one of those 40 points came from outside of the arc. It was all jumpers. They were all 2-point shots. And yeah, Obi, what did you make of Jimmy? I know you didn't catch the game like in its full length, but what did you make of his performance from what you saw?
I thought it was honestly, it was incredible. Like, I think that everyone thought Lakers 2-0 up, no Bam, no Dragic, no chance. Like, it's going to be 3-0, easy, simple. And Jimmy just put the whole team on his back. Like, and obviously the fact you say he knows that he's not a good 3-point shooter, so he thinks, okay, I've got to get to the basket, or I've got to pull up, do a jumper, anything like that. And the fact that he managed to get 40 points, no 3-pointers, like, that's just incredible. And can I just make a quick, I don't know, I want to make a quick point.
I'm scared.
If I'm wrong, I'm wrong, innit? But I'm not afraid to be wrong. Is Jimmy Butler the player that everyone thinks Russell Westbrook is?
No. Let's not do that.
No.
Normally, I'm a Russ fan, but he's obviously disgraced his family name until recently, so I can't really stand him as much. But Jimmy Butler is not what Russ pretends to be.
No, he's not. He's
No.
He's not. He's like, I think people, whenever you give people their top 20, top 30 in the league, honestly, people forget that they forget Jimmy Butler. And there's a no. Hear me out. There's a reason.
That's what I'm saying.
But there's a reason for it. And I know everything's made of his mentality and this and that, and he's all this. And obviously, man's not even showering, not cutting his hair, like not brushing his teeth. All of this, all of that elite mentality and all of that. However, I'll always be one to disrespect Russell Westbrook just because of the people in our group chat. However, I think that's borderline egregious, to borrow the words of.
Hey, I'm just asking.
No, I can't hang on that.
Jimmy's a 19 to 22 point a game kind of guy. One of my friends was saying. If that. So this 40-point triple-double, while sensational and the moment call for him, we saw the difference in game 4. Like, we saw what happened. Like, that's not the norm for Jimmy. For Jimmy to go and force his own shot looks painful. Like, it takes it all out of him. And he's playing 42 minutes a game, more or less, because he's the only person.
On both ends, too. I think it's important to remember to not let this injured Russ that we saw. I'm going to imagine he was injured because the guy didn't even dunk. I'm going to say that this Russ that we saw in this playoffs is not the Russ that we know. Don't let this streak ruin your reputation of who he is. You can do it for the likes of Paul George, because he's been like this, isn't it? Like, that's completely fine. I have no problem with that. But Russ, I think I have to maybe join the Russ Vengers for that one in that quote. But you mentioned game 4. So as you can see, I'm starting to get a bit more chirpy in how I'm speaking. Like, obviously, game 3 was a bit sad. Game 4, look, life is good again. Well, I mean, up until the second half. First half, I was kind of
very
scared.
close.
My hands were sweating all game. I ain't gonna lie to you. We won. Don't get me wrong.
Close.
And champions win ugly games, as they always say in football. You win the ugly ones, so it don't really matter. But I really think that the Heat lost that rather than we won that, especially going into the fourth. Like, there were moments when I thought, okay, the lead isn't big enough. It was 2 or 3, and it takes that Duncan Robinson shot that hit off the backboard and went in. I thought, okay, it's going to be one of them days. But Jimmy missing that 3 in the corner, and then LeBron running down there and hitting KCP, perfect. KCP is just playing for freedom, because I know he's not on tag anymore, but he didn't want to go back on it. So he's really, really playing well. So yeah, I think we played as good as we could have. Probably could have played better, considering AD was non-existent on offense again. Stellar on defense, because the game was played on both ends. Fantastic on defense. And LeBron was annoyingly passive to the state. I know he wanted to get guys going. Yeah. Of course, you want your teammates to contribute, which they ultimately did in the fourth, as we saw with like KCP getting the corner 3 and blowing past Duncan Robinson. But between all of us, we can all blow past Duncan Robinson. So it is what it is. But at the same time, when it comes down to it in the crunch time, you don't want the ball in anyone else's hands but LeBron or AD's. And he, until maybe the last couple minutes, even though it was in Rondo's, he was all too ready just to dish it off. And okay, it came to our favour this time. But when it comes down to it, I'm not trusting any of them, man. I want the ball in LeBron or AD's hands, no matter how many turnovers they've had per game. I just want to see it there in their hand, pick and roll till we die and see what happens. And if you're open, take the shot. If you're not, I don't care.
Fair enough. Go on, Obi, you were going to say something?
Yeah, I was going to say about, obviously, KCP, he had, I think it was like 15 points and 5 assists or something like that.
Yeah.
But, like, he had a good game. And I said this in the group maybe last week. I feel like, collectively, we don't give the Lakers supporting cast enough credit.
Right. Speak on it, King.
I feel like...
Oh, okay, he's like, yeah. There's a reason why, mate.
I feel like in these playoffs, obviously, they haven't all had good games all at the same time. But I feel like, Morris, Caruso, Rondo, Kuzma, and who did you say? KCP. I feel like collectively.
I'm so happy you didn't mention Danny Green, but go on.
No, yeah, okay. Yeah, I'll leave Danny Green out because he's been terrible pretty much every
28% from 3, 29% from the field. I don't want to hear it.
Oh my God!
I feel like they've all hit big shots at big moments, and even like been I say solid. I'm only talking about Caruso, really solid on defense, and. I think before the bubble started, I think everyone made a big deal about how the Lakers squad wasn't a championship squad. You know, if they played the Clippers, then, you know, the Clippers will win easily, blah, 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 blah. But I feel like they've all stepped up. I don't know if you guys agree or not.
They have. And do you know what it is? Yeah, I'm still far too cynical because of that first 5 for 23 game they had against Portland. Yeah. However, I know, but however, like you said, they've stepped up. And I think the system that we have just like works for them. Like when LeBron is off the court, the ball is in Rondo's hands. And you can't get any more secure on both teams than the ball being in Rondo's hands. And then him facilitating, let people know where they need to be. And even though he's an asshole, he's a fantastic mind. So he kind of knows exactly what he's doing and where to point people out. And then, yeah, I mean, Kuzma's job off the bench is just to shoot. KCP's being quite aggressive, which I feel has probably been asked of him because he's taking all the shots. Fair play to him because it's needed. And to be fair to him, he's actually hitting them. He's probably playing the best and the most consistent out of all the role players, not named Caruso, if not better than him, because he's actually hitting his shots, because Caruso's job is obviously to pester people on defense. So yeah, man, I feel like the bench could probably get more credit, but I do feel as well we are probably a bit more favourably matched up in the teams we've played, even though no one really wants to hear that. If we go through all the teams and you maybe break it down to its nuances, we've probably been not overmatched, but probably favourably matched in certain sense in terms of like the defense and the experience of some of the teams we're playing and how they're made up per se. But yeah, we can't knock them because we're 3-1 up against Miami. But then people are going to say, well, we should have been anyway. So,
you know what though? I can't. I get what you're saying, but I can't fully agree with it. And that's only because, and that's mostly because of the Houston series, because that was the series everyone said that our role players would be found out. Everyone knows that D'Antoni's Houston didn't really have much of a rotation with his players. They've had about, 6-7 players in these whole rotation. Like there's barely any break for anyone as it was. So I felt like that was the game that was the series where you felt like, okay, Lakers going to get found out. And that was going to be our Achilles heel, the perimeter shot that we couldn't defend. And suddenly these guys who hadn't been able to do this in regular season managed to do it. And they basically overcome each and every piece of adversity that's come their way. And I think that's why they're getting the credit. And there is some claim, and I'm only saying some because of the skill set of these other teams I'm going to mention. Clippers bench has been lauded as this best bench, the best bench in the league.
Well, being honest, it probably is.
Yeah, it is. And on paper, you can clearly see it's the deepest team. Like it's not by accident that they frequently get six man of the year in their outfit. And even as outside of that, just this year, you can tell how good their players are. However, as a team, not as individual players, as a team unit, you can see how the Lakers play with each other, for each other, where you can feel like that's not necessarily there with the Clippers. And I hate to be that Yadar, I hate to be like, oh, Brexit kind of guy, like, oh, if your head's not in it.
Because LeBron will take away their phone privileges if they don't play properly.
Yeah, for real.
Why it's too
funny, man.
Yeah, LeBron, I saw like LeBron sent the text message like, "Hey guys, we need to win this game 4." So they already knew if we don't win, we're sleeping outside.
Yeah. But I feel like there is some element to that. I think there is some element that when you play for each other, with each other, you perform better, and you perhaps perform outside. You perform better than you think you would, or you perform better than people think you would. And I think there is some claim to be made in that. So I have to give them credit. But I do want to break down the actual Game 4 game. So we did mention how great Jimmy Butler was in Game 3. He had a 40-point triple-double, the only player to go on and actually get a win from that in the finals. And you could see him continuing where he left off. In the first, he went 5 from 5 from the field. He was guarded by Dwight Howard, who just couldn't live with him. And he's always been seen as this athletic, huge guy, but Butler was just too good. Like sometimes you just have to be like, you know what, you're just too good. And Bron tried it for a little bit. Bron couldn't hack it either. I have to be completely honest. Jimmy was still dropping those shots. Now that came in tandem with Bron dropping 5 turnovers, unlike him, and with only 8 points in the first half. But keep all of that in mind, guys. The Lakers were still up 2. When your best player is throwing the ball away willy-nilly, only has 8 points, and you're still up 2 with the best player on the other team seemingly hot from the field, you can already see the problems. Do you get what I mean? So without just using it as a lazy analysis, you can see that, okay, Miami are already in some problems here, despite the fact that, okay, they may be cooking up something here, but you could see that the fact that they were still behind is that they're really having to work for their points. Either that or the Lakers defense is coming up trumps. And I think we saw that in the second half. So Obi, I know you watched the game, and it's an interesting one with Spo. So I'm going to make a point on Spo quickly. Since game 2, we've seen that he's dropped this zone defense. It's more man, but with a hint of zone. So where there's a man on the perimeter where you're like, I don't really mind if you shoot a free, Danny Green. I'm gonna drop into the zone. I'm gonna be an extra man in the paint. So you've seen that more, and it's actually come to their advantage. Lakers having to really work for their point. Even with the ball in Bron's hand, you can see him, that half-court offense, it sometimes results in a fall away, jack up a free, barely anywhere near the rim. That's good defense. He's playing well there. So he's finally managed to change that after 2 games. Previously, you saw that against Boston, despite dropping games, it was like, I think I mentioned this in a previous pod. It was like, we're not doing so well on zone. It's like one of the just before they start a quarter, they interview the coach. They're like, I think I'm going to stop changing. I'm going to change up the zone. He kept with the zone for the rest of the series. And this was like game 2 or something. He kept it for the whole time. He's stuck in his ways. And something to Vogel's credit is that he's always willing to change it up when necessary and make the necessary adjustments. I don't know if it's Jason Kidd. I don't know if it's him. I'm going to give him the credit because he's a head coach. And you can see the Lakers reaping the rewards of that against the various teams that they've played in the playoffs so far. And to end this long monologue, what I'm trying to say is that was that perhaps to Spo's inability to change up at key moments his downfall. So by that I mean keeping in the likes of Hero and Robertson, who were getting switched on the pick and roll on Bron and AD, and it was barbecue chicken from there. Why wasn't Iguodala playing? Why wasn't he playing more minutes down the stretch to provide an extra unit on D when clearly the problem is stopping the Lakers getting buckets as opposed to getting the buckets yourself. Like, that's my main criticism of him. But what did you think of that? Sorry, I was very long-winded.
No, I agree with you. I think it's a bit of, I don't want to say stubbornness, but I think it's trying to get his main scorers hot. So like, I think I have to keep in Hero, I have to keep in Robertson, because outside of Jimmy, they're the only ones who are really going to score. You haven't got Dragic to lead the offense either. So I think you need to keep at least one of them in at all times. So I think that's probably the main reason why he kept those two, didn't switch one of them out with Iguodala. I get it, because you're not going to think, you're like, if you want to outscore the Lakers, obviously I know you're focusing more on defense, but if you want to outscore the Lakers, you're not going to bring in Andre Iguodala. You're going to bring in Tyler Hero, who.
But the thing is, do you not feel like it's a little bit naive to think that you can outscore the Lakers?
No, I don't think it is.
I think they've been shooting the lights out. Well, before this series, anyway. Like, I think they would have one of the best shooting teams in the league, weren't they? Like, they haven't. The first 4 games of this series, they haven't managed to replicate that so far. But I understand why he's trusted the system that's got him all the way here.
But okay, cool. So you trust the system that's got him all the way here. It hasn't worked out for the first, let's say, 2.5 games, maybe part of this game. Why do you not switch it up? Okay, I'm asking you.
It's the personnel. That's just people on the court. Like, you can only make do with what you got there. And they did switch it up because they were trusting the system. But all of a sudden, Jimmy's taking 20-odd shots a game.
I mean, I think they had no choice at that point, to be fair.
They've got no choice. And in terms of like how they're scoring and stuff, like you said, like Obi said, it's either Jimmy or Hero or Robinson. And Robinson is running bleep tests all over the court.
Honestly, he is running his arse off.
Listen, he can't dribble.
Honestly,
he's running his arse off.
Honestly, he is a Wisconsin Clay. That's what he is, Wisconsin Clay Thompson.
No, but the thing is, I was so tempted to make a likening to Klay Thompson, but with Klay, he's fantastic. He's fantastic on the defensive end. So I'm like, I can't react you for that.
100% isn't. And as we've seen, he's actually been quite cold in this series, bar that one game, even though he's kept shooting, bar like game 3 where he kind of got a little thing going. But the Lakers have done actually very well of rushing him off his shot, because more often than not, I think he's got one of the best percentages of spot-up shooters in the league of all time, in fact, as well. So his job is to catch and shoot, and he managed to hit one, I believe, over KCP, and that was a fantastic look. But other than that, he is not going to put. If there was an offense late in the fourth in the game 4 where him and Hero had the ball, and I don't know what they did. We were just playing pat a cake in the corner, and then shot clock violation, because between the two of them, I don't know what was going on. So Hero can make his own shots. We can see he can score off the dribble. He can do a little something here and there. He's got a bit of flavour to him. Duncan Robinson cannot. So if Hero's not scoring, and obviously Jimmy's not scoring, and after a while, bam, his offense, even though he's doing great, incredibly one-dimensional. He's got mid-range, one out of 8 times, if that, and he's getting putbacks in that. But if he's not getting those, their offense all of a sudden becomes very, very stagnant. So in terms of changing out, there's not really much they can do other than the personnel. And Iggy ain't getting buckets. They're just there to disrupt. Like they asked him, what are you going to do in this game to disrupt AD? Just keep him out the paint, whatever. They're not really getting buckets from anywhere else. Crowder's main focus was slapping LeBron game 4.
Oh my goodness.
That was hilarious. I'm not going to lie.
That was nuts.
Proper funny.
No shots. So yeah, I think, unfortunately, if it's not Jimmy or Tyler, there's not really much they can really change. Because if they go back to the same old kind of ball movement, let's try and get everyone going here and there slowly, like the system, they get blown out by 30. Whereas if they put themselves on Jimmy and, unfortunately, 20-year-old rookies back, maybe they'll get somewhere. But as we've seen, it's not really getting him that far.
That's fair enough. That's fair enough. You make a good point. Maybe that's just my way of thinking. I'm just very much I'm very much like a damage limitation kind of guy, and then we make a move from there. But no, you make a very fair point. On the topic of coaches, Obi, you gave me a bit of your viewpoint on it. Kay, I want to ask you, what do you think about the matchup of Spo versus Frankie V? Who do you think is getting? It's going to be tough, but try and not solely put it down to the scoreline. Try not to put it down to just the players they have. But who do you think is winning the tactical battle?
Spo is definitely winning. Like, I don't care what anyone says. Even though we're clearly winning, that just comes down to the fact we have 2 top 5 players in our team, and our defense is fantastic. And don't get me
Why do you
wrong,
say that?
I don't want to disregard the role Frank Vogel's known as a defensive coach, and we couldn't play a lick of defense last year or the year before. So I really appreciate that he's doing very well there. And obviously, Jason Kidd, probably better much suited as an assistant, is doing a great job with them. And obviously, the offense is very much Bronner AD, but they have some off-ball stuff where they run along the baseline and so forth, and the handoffs when they're running along the top of the key, which is fine. Like, that works for us. But I believe when it comes to outthinking each other, I think it was most shown in Game 3, and that came, and in the start of Game 4 as well. That came with keeping AD quiet, because the first 2 games they had no idea, and then they adjusted because AD, they'll have the ball on the free throw line extended, and then they'll play the ball into AD in the post. But then what they wouldn't factor in is someone will come in from the weak side, not the middle, but all the way from the other side along the baseline, and try and double him. And that happened 3-4 times in Game 4, and they couldn't adjust. And that was all they were doing in Game 3, trying to get him to give up the ball. And we saw a few times that was where the turnovers came from. And AD couldn't get settled in the post, really couldn't take shots. So that's probably been the biggest factor. Obviously, they've not accounted for the fact that AD's a monster in defense, so he's still going to impact the game. But in terms of like coaching decisions, there's nothing really special I say Vogel has done, bar the masterstroke of playing AD on Butler, where he went 1 for 7, which obviously we know AD's a unicorn, as they say, 7 foot, can move his feet. But well and truly, you're expecting someone who's 6'6", very athletic by normal standards, to be able to get past an above average perimeter defender, no matter how good they are, and maybe finish at the lane or get some fouls. And he couldn't do that. So I think that's the one time that maybe Vogel's got ahead of Spo. But in terms of what Miami do, I think it's a lot better. It's just the fact that the personnel isn't there. And ultimately, as we say in football, you just need good players to be able to execute something. And they haven't got the players to do it.
Fair enough. That's very fair. You did mention AD there. You did mention his defensive prowess. Obi, I want to ask you, is AD the best defender in the league?
Yeah. I think so. Like, the way I think of it, I was thinking of it earlier today. Giannis won Defensive Player of the Year. From what I watched, I only watched 2 games. When Miami played the Bucks, whenever I feel like the time, as I said, the timeline bullied Giannis into defending Jimmy. Like, he didn't do it the whole series. Everyone was getting on to him.
If only the timeline bullied him into acknowledging that he's Nigerian. But anyway, you please continue.
Nigerian Independence Day and all that.
Yeah.
But yeah, and he did that, and it just wasn't effective at all. Like, Jimmy was blowing by him every opportunity that I saw. And then obviously switched that now with AD Game 4. Obviously Game 3, Jimmy was doing everything, like getting as many buckets as he liked. Game 4, they switch up, that puts AD on him, and then suddenly, defensively, shut down. Like, wasn't being anywhere near as aggressive as he was in Game 3. Wasn't getting the sort of shots off that he was getting off in Game 3, or even earlier in the game in the first half compared to the second half. And I just think, like, when you can shut down a player like that, and you can also shut down multiple other positions effectively, he's the best defensively.
So you're basically saying that AD managed to do what the Greek fraud couldn't, and that was stop Jimmy Butler in any way possible. Oh, that's really interesting, because you know who else managed to do that in the last series? If I'm not mistaken, I think Bron managed to stop Jamal Murray, which is something that Kawhi couldn't do. But and I don't even know why. I brought that up. That's nothing to do with this. Oh my goodness. Never mind.
Believe Kawhi.
Sorry.
His cornrows must have been too tight, you know.
Yeah. You know, it must have been freshly laid. You know, I mean, yeah, poor guy, man. His head was tight. His back must have been hurting from carrying him for the rest of the series. But anyway, we digress. Back onto the Lakers. There was a really interesting stat I saw, and that is that the Lakers are 56-0 going into 4th quarters this season. That is incredible. Yeah, that's simply fantastic. The last person to ever do that came in the 17-18 season from a man you guys may know. His name is LeBron James. It was with the Cleveland Cavaliers. It was a 50-1 record. That was a close-est type of record in doing this. It goes to show that, once again, I don't mean to bring them up, but they naturally come. When you're winning in the 4th quarter, you watch LeBron and his team he'll show you how to close out a game. I mean, that's simply just how it is. Certain teams from across the lake in LA couldn't
Hold
really
on.
do.
Wait.
Oh,
Weren't the Lakers leading in the fourth quarter in game 3?
Come again?
Weren't the Lakers leading in the fourth quarter in game 3? No?
Obi, I'm gonna have to ask you to come back in. I can't really hear you too well. Oh my goodness, what's going on here? Anyway, Kate, as I was saying, in the fourth quarter when it matters, the Lakers come up trump. They were leading in the fourth quarter in game 3, but they weren't leading going into the quarter.
Okay, fair enough.
Which was key. Come on, you have to listen to the stat carefully, yeah. But I say all of that to say this. Before we give our predictions on game 5 and who would take that Finals MVP, where's it going? Let me give you guys some top line stats. So LeBron James is averaging 28 points, 11 rebounds, and 9 assists. AD is averaging 26 points, 9 rebounds, and 3 assists. And Jimmy Butler is averaging 29 points, 7 rebounds, and 10 assists. I only say Jimmy Butler stats out of respect because
you can't give it to the loser.
you just don't give it to a loser. I mean, if in all honesty, LeBron James should have had a Finals MVP if they were giving it to losers in the series where
holding it to 34 points a game.
and he got defensive. He got Finals MVP, which is incredible.
Ooh, shiver me timbers.
Imagine. But Kay, where do you think the race is going right now? Is it solely down to narratives, or do you feel like AD actually has a chance of catching Bron?
Oh no, AD's throwing this in the bin. Let's not get twisted. He's throwing it away. The first 2 games, unfathomable. He's doing some crazy stuff. Bron was staying in to get them 20 point shamelessly in fourth.
You know what? The first game. You know what? Okay, the first game was nasty, because
There was no need.
And I think we went on like a 77-32 run. I'm like, yo,
why are you here?
Why are you playing, my G?
Hey, listen. The ball's got enough here, and they go pound the ball on the sideline.
Honestly, like I can't remember. I was talking to Sai in a group chat. I said he was watching the game back in the morning. I said to you, bro, LeBron has like 10 points going into the fourth. He ends the game with 30 points. He's like, how, Harold? How? You keep watching the game, you find out how.
Honestly, disgusting. So yeah, AD had them first 2 games. However, I hate that it's an offensive league. No one cares about defense, bro. The last 2 games, AD's been the man on defense, but guess what? No one cares. Whereas LeBron has actually carried the Lakers the last 2 games offensively anyway. But do you not feel like the fact that AD didn't play well game 3 and the Lakers lost, that plays in his advantage, and that maybe he actually is the most valuable player. When he plays well, they win, or no? Yeah, because some of these, obviously I don't want to be disrespectful for anyone, but some of these basketball heads who are in charge of voting aren't exactly sometimes the most knowledgeable when you get people saying they vote based on narrative and not on fact. So that kind of sums it up. So I think even though I think it's probably a tie game going into this last game. It depends who has the biggest game 5. And just we really see who has the fat game 5. If AD goes off for 40, 20 with a little 4-piece assist, they'll probably give it to him.
Do you really think LeBron would allow that?
I was gonna say.
If, however, LeBron is going to assault somebody again on offense, and maybe Duncan Robertson this time because Hero got it last game, and you're going to see him screaming into the camera, and then from there you're just going to know what's up. Because
I wouldn't be surprised if he shouts "Year 17" into the camera.
Listen, the shamelessness is going to occur. He's going to say, "Kobe, we did this for you.
Kobe, this is for you."
It's coming.
Coming, guys.
To see, Kobe, the spirit. Kobe being Brian, is with us on. It's coming. Lake Town forever. I came to this town, say I want to win a chip. I can write this speech word for word.
You'd be like, oh, you know what Malcolm X taught me, man? He taught me that, listen, all your brothers that have come and gone, you respect them, man. You do it for them, man. Honestly, that's the kind of things he'll be saying. For God, Obi.
I'll say, Kay, I just want to say that your accent was way better than Harold's accent in that last episode. Look.
Hey, man.
They doubted us, man.
Hey, man. Look, they doubted us, man. I thought I was a masterstroke, to be honest.
That was horrid.
The thing I can't wait to see is J.R. Smith, 0 minutes posing with that trophy.
Oh yeah, you know it's coming. Oh, but yeah, as we get towards the end of the podcast, I want to know what you guys think of.
Oh wait, quickly.
Oh, go on.
So are we all agreed? Well, what do you think?
Oh, sorry, I didn't even ask you, Obi. Yeah, go on.
No, also I was just gonna say of the 4 games so far, because I think if I was basing it on these 4 games, I would give the MVP to AD personally. But I
Yeah,
don't know.
of course. But
Yeah.
narratives, and I think him going missing per se in game 3 probably wouldn't go in his favour. But I do think, even though he wasn't that was a very hard 25, whatever he had in game 4, defensively, insane. And that's impacts that we definitely needed, considering that game was so close for so long, especially because LeBron was struggling, even though he got his numbers in the end. I don't care what anyone says. If you watch the game, you'd see that 27 or whatever he had was a struggle. He really worked for that. And it was very, very hard. So, yeah, I would say AD probably is the finals MVP leading into this. But I wouldn't be surprised if they give it to LeBron, because that's just the way the story goes, man. We need them ESPN debates.
I think I'm about to say to put on my Bron cape, but honestly, it never comes off. So to go in the Bron's favor here, I do think, although I really think it's about me. I have to be honest. Like, as much as I want a cap for Bron, I have to be honest. And AD has been sensational on both ends this whole series. I think Bron is really a really good tempo setter. He's very much a guy who is gonna aid in his team's performance now, and you've seen that more of him. I don't feel like that is necessarily a choice, because I feel like his body is just not what it was essentially. Like, he just can't keep pounding his way to the basket like he used to in years gone by. I feel like in terms of the tempo setting, I feel like in terms of his leadership, I feel like those intangibles is what is going to add in his favor, along with the obvious narrative, of course. But he did genuinely distribute the ball well in the second half of game 4. And there's something that I will always criticize him of. It is his late game free throws. And he went 7 from 7 from the line in game 4. And that was something I was surprised to see. And ones, honestly, he was actually genuinely looking okay. But from the field, not so much, apart from that one fadeaway jumper on Jimmy. That was pretty nice, to be fair. But I do feel like I've almost talked myself out of my point the more I've spoken. I can see, aside from narrative, I still can see why Bron might get it, just because of his whole leadership thing, where he is right now. Yeah, I'm chatting rubbish right now. Yeah, it's AD, can't lie. Anyway, until I die, man. That's basically what I'm trying to say. But yeah, as we reach the end of the podcast, I just want to ask you guys, what's going on in Game 5? Is Jimmy doing another madness? Is he extending this to a 6-game series, maybe perhaps even a 7-game series? What do you think, Obi? I'll start with you.
Is Dragic out for this game as well?
Do you know what? I feel like he's been out since he had that injury. I think they've just been just a tactic that they're using to maybe keep the Lakers on edge kind of thing. But really, like the type of injury and those gone by before, you just don't ever come back that quickly. But yeah, I'm gonna assume no. So yeah, no.
Fair. Yeah, I can't see past the Lakers win, unfortunately, because I would like this to be a bit more interesting than it has been. I feel like in general the series has been a bit dull. Like last game aside, I thought last game was pretty entertaining. But yeah, I can't see past the Lakers win. You know, LeBron and AD both going to drop 30. Caruso might drop a quick 15 if you're lucky.
Lovely. And Kay, how about you?
Oh, we're going to close this out. I would hope anyway. Like, obviously, they say Jimmy will probably go down fighting and all them man, but this is probably the most pressure any of them man have faced in their life, Jimmy included.
Yeah.
And we'll say, don't be surprised if Danny Brick shows up, baby. I'm talking 4 for 9 from 3. Couple layups, couple free throws, couple fillets, you know. So don't be surprised if Danny Brick shows up. That disgrace will know no better, considering he's done it before.
You know what, though? I'm glad you mentioned that, because although it's taken him way longer than I honestly can't fathom why, Frankie V has stopped playing him as much down the stretch, and it needed to happen, because that guy, it's almost like they take the piss. You had Jeff Van Gundy on commentary. He was like, you just can't leave Danny Green open. I'm like, what are you talking about? Of course he can leave him open. He doesn't ever make any shots.
Apart from my agenda aside, what we can clearly see is a man clearly struggling. Like, we can't be remiss from these men have been in the bubble for how bloody long. Yeah. And obviously their families have just joined them in the last month, but it's been 2-3 months. So while I do understand that more serious side, at the same time, it's NBA Finals, man. Don't be a bloody
thank God. I
was getting there because he's being a bloody disgrace right now. 29% from 3. So game 5, I will not be. I want to put some money down now. I'll say Danny Bricks might actually show up game 5, and actually.
I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised. You scared me there because I genuinely thought you're gonna go all sigh and go all introspective and worry about family.
Oh no, this is NBA Finals, baby. Get it done.
Thank God.
Thank God. Shouting at them kids.
Enough of that.
It needs to be done.
Misogynist kings over here, guys. But yeah, that's the same for me. I think that's a clean sweep from all of us. I think it's a gentleman's sweep all round. And if that happens, that would mean that the Lakers have gentlemen swept the entire league.
That's mad when you think about it.
That is actually incredible. And yeah, I guess I can't lie to you. I'm fairly confident. I didn't even watch Game 4 live. I was like, you know what? Honestly, it's good. I'll watch it in the morning. Check the scores. Like, yeah, of course we won. But anyway, we'll see you next guys. We'll see you next time, guys, on Sunday, where Kay and I will be fully drenched in our LA garms, you know, head to toe. We can't do our parades, obviously. I mean, not like we'll be in LA. Kay might, I wouldn't have. But we'll be doing our own celebration here. So yeah, guys, check it out. I won't even be in the country, but I'll make sure I make an appearance.
I'll be ready. Listen, it's autumn in the UK, but it's gonna be a hot summer. Okay.
You do make me sick, bro. I can't stand this. This is horrible.
I'm telling you, no one wants to see me if we win. Oh my God.
Honestly, yeah.
This is nasty.
Yaz, Janine, Sidney, Mariah, all of you guys. In fact, who else? Reams, Jeff, all of you guys. Listen.
You know what it is? I want the Lakers to win, but you lot are just making it hard.
I live in LA in the side of my head. Who knows? Yeah. I'll let you know. Monday morning, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, for real. But honestly, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Till next time, thank you very much, Ovi. Thank you very much, Kay. Guys, take it easy. Peace.
Peace.